Incredible revenge, how Tereza transformed pain into power after 5 years of silent suffering. Tereza stood at the edge of the town square, feeling the weight of every moment that had led her here. A chill ran shivers down her spine as memories flooded her mind, her father's haggard face, the factory whistle echoing as it resonated for the last time. At 28, all she carried was the heavy heart of a single mother, the echoes of factory closures haunting her every step in this once thriving suburb of Pittsburgh. The American dream had faded into a cruel mirage, and Tereza felt trapped beneath its weight. They say tough times build character, but to Tereza, it felt like character had become a burden. She woke each day before dawn, dragging herself through multiple jobs, bartending, cleaning homes, delivering pizzas just to keep a flickering light on in the darkened kitchen of her rundown apartment. She was doing it all for her little sister, Rita, who had slowly turned into a storm of rebellion and hurt, her teenage angst regularly tsunami-ing into Tereza's dreams of stability. Just last week, Tereza had found Rita with a cigarette behind the school, the stench of smoke cutting through the air like a knife. The bullying at work had sharpened over time. Co-workers whispered cruel things behind her back. Factory girl, they called her. Tereza could feel their eyes like daggers whenever she walked in the break room. But she wore every insult like armor, placing one foot in front of the other. Beneath the surface, though, it was suffocating. Her heart ached as she recalled her father's words, "Stand tall, Tereza. Stand tall." Some days, all she wanted was to sit down and cry. But in quiet moments, inspiration flickered like a candle fighting against the wind. Tereza picked up a pencil and began to draw something she hadn't done since childhood. With every stroke, she poured her pain onto the page. She realized that creating art was a release, a way to transform despair into something beautiful. It lit a fire within her, breathing life back into her spirit. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with a new sense of purpose. Tereza dreamed up a community art event. It was far from an easy task, but she longed to share her family's struggle, the stories of others who wore their hardships like badges. Voices that had long been silenced were ready to rise, narratives intertwining in a powerful tapestry. But as the event approached, shadows loomed heavily. The decision to confront the bullies at work turned bitter. When Tereza stood her ground against one of them, a firestorm of emotions erupted. What if this burst of strength tore apart the fragile strands of unity in her family? Standing in the glow of the event's lights, Tereza felt hope and fear twist together as one. The crowd stirred, whispering among themselves, and the moment felt electric. As she prepared to share her artwork with the world, an unexpected interruption made her heart race. Would her pursuit for recognition and connection lead to healing, or would it unearth deeper fractures within her family? She stood there on the brink of transformation, hope wavering somewhere between pain and power, waiting for the world to see the truth she carried inside. Tereza's heart pounded in her chest, a thunderous drum drowning out the whispers that surrounded her. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, yet a shadow loomed over her, the uncertainty of what was about to unfold. She glanced at her artwork, vibrant colors splashing across the canvas, telling stories of heartbreak and resilience. This was her moment. But behind the vibrant hues lay a fear that gripped her. Would anyone truly understand? The MC stepped up to the microphone, his voice smooth and inviting. Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we honor the strength of our community, the stories that bind us, and the art that liberates us. Tereza could hardly breathe. This was the moment to bridge her pain and that of others, a chance to show Rita that there was hope amid chaos. As the crowd applauded, she felt a wave of nausea, every muscle tightening. What if they hated her work? What if they laughed at her scars? But as her name echoed through the square, drowning out her fears, Tereza stepped forward. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the warmth of the lights. Tears began to fill her eyes as she spoke. I'm Tereza, and for years, my family has endured hardships. But art helped me to reflect, to heal, and to find strength. I want to share our story. The air shifted. Tereza could see the faces staring back at her, young, old, confused, hopeful. She cleared her throat, and the words flowed as if they had always been there, waiting for the right moment to burst free. Each sentence echoed the pain of her upbringing, the dim nights spent crying silently in the dark. She revealed Rita's struggles, the school's pressure, the way loneliness devoured them both. The audience was still, absorbing the raw honesty. She noticed a few nodding, their eyes glistening, finding echoes of their own stories in hers. It was enough to spark a flicker of hope in Tereza. Perhaps they understood the power of vulnerability. Then she unveiled her artwork, canvases filled with emotions that had haunted her nights. This, she said, pointing to a bright piece swirling with chaotic lines, represents my sister's anger. And this, she continued, gesturing to a softer piece cloaked in warm yellows and pinks, is the love that still shines through the cracks. A hush fell over the crowd before a woman from the back stepped forward, her voice trembling. Thank you for sharing, my daughter feels lost too. With that, the dam broke as whispers filled the air. Stories of struggle and triumph began to emerge. But just then, Tereza noticed a figure in the corner. One of her co-workers, the instigator of her bullying, had shown up, eyes narrowed, mouth set in a hard line. The laughter and cheers around her dulled as confusion and anxiety swirled in Tereza's stomach. What if he tried to ruin this moment? Suddenly, the crowd began to part, and everyone glanced back at him. This confrontation was inevitable. Panic rose within her. Would he undermine her or lash out? With every ounce of courage, Tereza took a deep breath. She could feel the warmth of the crowd still supporting her, pushing her forward. But would it be enough to stand her ground? As her heart raced and her palms grew clammy, she faced the challenge head-on. The choices ahead would define not only her future but also the way she would reclaim her story once and for all. Would she falter, or was she finally ready to embrace her power? The crowd held its breath, and so did she, waiting for the answer. Tereza locked eyes with the intruder, and in that fleeting moment, everything slowed down. The noise of the crowd faded, leaving only the thud of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. He was a figure of dread, someone whose presence once threatened to drown her in shame and self-doubt. But not tonight. With every fiber of her being, she tightened her grip on the microphone, grounding herself in the now. The warm spotlights felt like a shield, an armor against the chilly winds of fear. She couldn't let him undermine her. She had opened her heart, and nothing would take that away. Are you here to listen? She asked, her voice steady, surprising even herself. Or are you here to silence me again? The audience gasped softly, a wave of uncertainty washing over them. Tereza felt the weight of their support, their silent encouragement wrapping around her like a soft blanket. She pressed on, fueled by their energy. Every brushstroke is part of my healing, part of my story. Maybe it's time you heard it, she called out, her chin lifted defiantly. His face shifted momentarily, annoyance flickering in his eyes as if he hadn't expected this response from her. Laughter erupted from the crowd, a buoyant wave of solidarity that cascaded over her. She couldn't help but smile, the power of shared experiences igniting something vibrant within her. The seeds of doubt began to dissolve. Years of pain don't just disappear, she continued, her voice becoming stronger with each syllable. They become us. But they don't define us. Not anymore. A murmur ran through the crowd, and she could see nods of agreement, sparks of shared understanding bouncing from one listener to another. Tereza turned back to her artwork, gesturing to a piece that swirled with dark tones yet had vivid patches of light cutting through. This one depicts the struggle, she explained. But even in struggle, there is beauty and light. I refuse to stay hidden in shadows. The crowd erupted in applause, and with it, Tereza's heart soared. Each clap broke through the silence of the past, unleashing a cathartic release she had longed for. It felt like reclaiming a part of herself she thought she'd lost. But the coworker shifted again, his gaze unwavering and cold. "You're just making a spectacle of yourself," he sneered. There was venom in his words, and she felt it pierce through her moment. Tereza's breath hitched. She felt the crowd tense, senses heightened, anticipating turmoil. But in that instant, she saw not just the man who had tormented her, but someone who seemed lost, too. Maybe he struggled with his own demons. "What's on your canvas?" she challenged softly, a question that dangled in the air. "Have you ever painted your story?" His expression faltered, a crack in his armor she almost didn't believe. The crowd was quiet again, they were waiting. Waiting for a response that could change everything. This was her chance. The moment teetered between confrontation and revelation. Would this moment create a new narrative not just for her, but also for him? Tereza's heart raced as uncertainty loomed overhead like an impending storm. The collective breath of the crowd held the evening at a standstill as they awaited his reply. Would he lash out in anger or reveal a vulnerability that might reshape everything around them? The air was thick with anticipation, almost electric. And with every passing second, the atmosphere grew heavier. As time stretched thin, Tereza knew she was standing at the edge of something important, something transformative. What would come next? The silence was deafening. Tereza's heart raced as she stared at the man before her, the man who had once made her feel so small. The moment hung like a tightrope, and she suddenly realized just how far she'd come. The fear that had once consumed her was now just a shadow, flickering at the edges of her resolve. He shifted uncomfortably, the crowd's eyes boring into him. For a brief moment, she saw a flicker of something behind his hardened exterior, fear, perhaps, or regret. "What do you know about my story?" he finally snapped, his bravado cracking ever so slightly. Tereza felt the exhilaration of courage swell within her. "More than you think," she replied, her voice steady. "We're all fighting battles. I know that struggle can wear you down if you let it. But your choice to bring pain doesn't make you powerful. It makes you weak." The words felt liberating, like a shield forged from the very fires of her experience. The audience began to murmur again, a low hum of support that surrounded her. It was like a living thing, rising up to keep her strong. They were with her, every heart beating in unison, a community born from understanding and shared pain. It was intoxicating. "You think you know me? You have no idea what I've faced," he retorted, his voice rising, but there was an edge to it now, a crack that betrayed his anger. "Then let's hear it," Tereza called out, surprising everyone, including herself. "Behind that wall you've built, is there something more? A struggle that needs to be painted?" His face twisted in an expression she couldn't quite read. Anger? Shame? A flash of something unguarded passed through his eyes, and the crowd instinctively leaned closer. "I lost my mother," he said finally, the words falling from his lips like stones. "I didn't know how to deal with that, so I lashed out. I was supposed to be the strong one." There was a shift in the atmosphere. Tereza saw the crowd soften, empathy washing over them like an incoming tide. She felt the weight of her own past, the pain that had once kept her silent, and recognized fragments of her own struggle in his words. "I know that pain," she whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "But hurting others won't bring her back. What you're feeling, it can be transformed. Just like this," she gestured towards her artwork. "You can channel your loss into something powerful instead of something destructive." He stared, the tension dropping slowly, inch by inch. "But it's easier to hide behind anger," his voice trailed off, the bravado melting away. "Easier to break than to heal, you mean?" Tereza nodded, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. "It takes real strength to show your vulnerability, to take the canvas of your life and paint it anew. We can do that together. A momentary silence reigned, broken only by the soft thrum of Tereza's heart and the murmurs of realization that reverberated through the crowd. They had come for art, but were witnessing the emergence of something deeper, a connection, a raw sharing of scars. The co-worker's defenses crumbled as he took a step forward, uncertainty mingling with something like hope. So, how can I start? Tereza felt the surge of what so many had lost, fear giving way to possibility. She gave him a supportive smile, feeling the warmth of newfound understanding wrapping around her like a plush blanket. You start by accepting your pain. And then you let it guide you to a canvas of light. But before she could elaborate, she noticed a couple of attendees whispering anxiously at the back of the room. Suddenly, a woman stepped forward, eyes wide, heart racing. You can't just let him off the hook like that. What about the rest of us who suffered because of him? The intensity reignited, and Tereza felt it in the air, tinged with both challenge and potential. Would this revelation spark a larger confrontation? With the ground shifting beneath her, Tereza knew this conversation was just beginning, and it might become more than she'd ever imagined. Would they be able to bridge this divide, or would old wounds opened after so long expose new fractures? The stakes had climbed, but could they all find a pathway toward healing? Tereza's heart pounded, the pressure in the room palpable as the woman stepped closer. Anger danced in her eyes like flames. You can't ignore the damage he has done. Lives were shattered. You're just going to brush it all aside? The crowd shifted restlessly, anticipation crackling like electricity. Tereza felt the heat of their eyes, each one a reminder of countless stories filled with pain. This wasn't just about her or him anymore, it was about all of them. Listen, Tereza began, her voice catching the attention of the increasingly divided crowd. No one is dismissing the hurt. What he did was wrong. She gestured towards the man, whose expression was a cocktail of guilt and defiance. But if we just let blame sit there, who does that serve? Holding on to this anger can weigh us down, just as much as it weighs him down. The woman shook her head in disbelief. So what? We just let him waltz back into everyone's lives. You're telling me he deserves another chance? Many in the crowd murmured agreement, voices edging towards outrage, but Tereza stood firm, the warmth of her previous courage slowly returning. Emotion can be the catalyst for change, she asserted with quiet conviction. What if, instead of pushing him away, we bring him into the fold? Give him space to confront what he has done. It's forgiveness that breaks the chains of our past, not vengeance. A ripple of uncertainty went through the crowd as they considered her words. Would they really allow themselves to move towards something resembling reconciliation? The man shifted again, the walls around him crumbling further. I don't deserve that, he whispered, his voice barely audible but crackling with raw honesty. I thought I was strong, but I was just scared angry. The woman who had challenged Tereza stepped back, confusion playing across her features. But how can we trust him? Her voice was softer, almost searching. Trust is built, not given, Tereza responded gently, feeling a hopeful breeze course through the room. We're not saying we forget the past or pretend it didn't happen. We simply hold space for healing, for him and for ourselves. There's power in confronting the truth and in forging a new path forward. The air felt lighter now, conversations stirring with the possibility of understanding. Eyes shifted from Tereza to the man, who stood caught between the past and a future he never dared to dream he could have. Maybe I can't undo the past, he started, a tremor in his voice. But I want to learn. I want to help somehow. A few murmurs of approval filled the air, cautious but present. The woman looked back at him, a flicker of something breaking through her anger, a glimmer of compassion perhaps. Tereza could feel hope weaving its way through the space like threads of golden light. It's in this vulnerability, she said, her heart racing with anticipation, that we truly begin to heal. But just as a fragile agreement hung in the air, a sudden outburst burst through the crowd. And what if he hurt someone else? Then what? That question echoed through the room like a dark specter, pushing at the edges of their fragile moment of compassion. Tereza felt the energy shift again, uncertainty creeping in. As she faced the audience, a knot formed in her stomach alongside the hope blooming within her heart. They were stepping into a new, uncertain territory, one that promised transformation but also risk. It was all or nothing now. What if they could find a way, but at what cost? In that charged moment, Tereza sensed the enormity of their choices. Could they forge a new path, a shared journey toward understanding and healing, or would fear and anger pull them back into a toxic cycle? And as she looked at the faces around her, the empowering weight of possibility was heavy in the air. Would they take the leap together, or retreat into their familiar shadows? Tereza met the crowd's anxious gaze head-on, heart racing with the weight of the moment. Silence hung thick, a collective breath held in anticipation. She could almost hear the thumping pulse of uncertainty reverberate around the room. "Look," she began, her voice low but steady, "we're all scared. I know I am. But fear can either freeze us in place or push us to find strength we never knew we had. In the face of a threat, we can choose to either close off our hearts or open them wider." The murmurs swelled again, this time tinged with curiosity. A few heads nodded, as if her words cracked something deep within their walls. Tereza felt herself rely on this moment, drawing strength from it. "Forgiveness isn't weakness," she continued, "it doesn't mean we're saying what happened is okay. It's about freeing ourselves from the grip of past pain. It's a way to reclaim our power. You don't have to forgive today or even tomorrow, but can we at least see him as a person worth reckoning with?" There was a flicker of thought in their eyes, glimmers of hope surfacing among the hurt. But doubt still lingered like a shadow. "Some of you may not want to hear it, but we've been living in our own prisons of anger. He is one man. We're a community. If we can't heal our wounds together, how will we thrive?" The woman, still stewing in her anger, clenched her fists tightly. "A community? After everything?" Her voice flickered with fire, but something different flickered in her eyes. It was less of an accusation now and more of a challenge. "Yes. After everything," Tereza cried out, more passionate and resolute. "We're bigger than our scars. Healing starts with us together. How can we serve our families, our children, if we're constantly stuck? We can rise, standing on the ashes of our past to build something beautiful." The man, still raw with vulnerability, looked at her, yearning for understanding. "I can't take back my actions, but I can work to make it right. I this chance as a lifeline to become better, not just for me, but for everyone." From the corners of the room, softer voices began to emerge, speaking words of hope against the tide of doubt. "It's worth a thought, maybe," one person ventured. Another chimed in, "But what if he never changes?" "Change isn't instantaneous," Tereza replied, emboldened by their shifting energy. "It takes time, and it takes sincerity. We owe it to ourselves to give this a chance. We've all experienced pain, and if we can unite over that, maybe just maybe we can find healing." The room was electric, transformation crackling in the air. But as a fragile agreement began to weave itself among the crowd, the woman stepped forward again, this time her voice steady but questioning. "And if we fail? What then?" In that moment, Tereza felt the fear pulse through her, but she brushed it aside. "Then we will get back up again. Falling is a part of life. It's what we do afterward that defines us." The crowd shifted uneasily, the swell of emotion pressed against a fragile barrier. Could they be strong enough to choose this path? Tereza's heart swelled with determination. She was offering the gift of hope, but would they be ready to accept it? As their gazes met, she wondered if they could truly stand together in this unpredictable journey. And just then, as the energy pulsated and hung in a delicate balance, someone shouted from the back, "What if he does it again?" The air turned icy, tension tightening all around. Tereza's pulse quickened as the question lingered, the potential for chaos looming on the edges of their fragile new beginning. Would they dare to step into the unknown, or would doubt pull them back once more? The room held its breath, the weight of the moment thick and unyielding. Tereza felt her stomach drop at the question, each letter like a stone tossed into a still pond, rippling out toward the edges of their resolve. The man at the center of it all, once shrouded in shame, now appeared smaller in the face of the crowd's fear. Would you live in fear forever? Tereza asked, her voice cutting through the tension, carrying a raw honesty that echoed in the silent air. Every day, waking up to the dread that things might shatter again. Or would you rather stand together, preparing for the storms instead of cowering from them? A young girl somewhere in the back sniffled softly, representing a wave of fears harbored in countless hearts. The crowd shifted, and Tereza could see the resistance they'd built around their pain, walls raised high yet trembling. We can't control every outcome, she continued, feeling the rhythm of her heartbeat in tandem with the building anxiety around her. But we can choose how we react. We have the power to change the narrative. A murmur rippled through the crowd, then silence, as they wrestled with the understanding. Tereza could see some nodding, while others held tight to their anger, arms crossed defiantly. It was fitting a battle of wits and hearts playing out before her. Then the angry woman, still standing fierce yet softened now, stepped back up. So, what if we try, and it goes wrong? Her voice cracked with emotion, a token of the heavy burden they all carried. If we try, and it goes wrong, Tereza echoed, meeting her gaze with determination, then we learn, and we grow. But do we risk everything? Are we really willing to trust him? Another voice protested, breaking through the doubts anew. The sentiments echoed like a desperate plea for reassurance. Will we regret it? Tereza could feel the spikes of fear and uncertainty all over again. But she wasn't going to allow hesitation to seep into the cracks now. What I see is not just one man, I see us. This moment is a test of who we choose to be. Who we will become. We can either wallow in what was taken from us or step into what could be. There was a flicker in their eyes, a growing embers of something she couldn't quite place. Was it courage? Was it resolve? Tereza kept going, driven by an unseen fire. Our pain has forged us, and it can continue to shape us, but we must decide how. Together, we can carve out a new chapter. A chance at healing, for every one of us. The murmurs grew louder, uncertainty mixing with hope. Tereza could see fists uncurling, expressions softening ever so slightly. She took a step back, allowing her heart to breathe alongside theirs. Imagine, she said, her voice low but filled with passion. Imagine what we can build if we stand united. A community powered by compassion, resilient in face of adversity. Are we willing to take that leap? The man shifted slightly, now observing them. Hope glimmered slightly behind the shadow of his past. Tereza's heart ached for them all, for the frailty of the moment resting in front of them. There wasn't a script for this. But one thing was clear, this forge of fear and uncertainty could become a cradle of healing. And standing there, she noticed the sheer possibility of it. And just then, amidst the back and forth of thoughts battling inside the crowd, one voice called out, laced with tinges of daring, "So what do we do now?" Tereza felt a rush of both dread and excitement as they all turned together, waiting for her lead. Would she help them step into the unknown, or invite doubt to hold them back once again? Their faces were a mosaic of uncertainty and burgeoning hope, and as Tereza stood before them, she felt both the weight of their gaze and the flicker of something new, a shared desire to reclaim their lives. "So what do we do now?" The voice echoed again, insistently pressing for action. It was a simple question laden with a world of implications. She could feel the energy in the room shift, excitement bubbling up like a fresh spring. This was not merely a plea. It was a call to arms. "Now," Tereza started, her heart racing, "we decide how we're going to move forward." The words poured out of her like an unrestrained river, fueled by the power of the moment. "We can start small. We need to talk, to share our stories. Healing begins with connection. But we can't do this alone." The crowd shifted, some faces lighting up at the suggestion. "Let us form a committee. Someone needs to lead the way." Maybe we could hold discussion sessions, a safe space where we can speak our truths, she proposed. Rapidly, her mind raced with possibilities. She imagined a community event filled with voices blending into something powerful, a true testament to their collective resilience. Whispers of agreement washed over the gathering, and Tereza felt emboldened. I can host it. I'm just one person, but together. She paused, letting her words hang in the air. Together, we can create a platform for everyone. We'll invite the man at the center of this. He deserves his chance to explain, to show he's ready to acknowledge what has been done. But we must decide now, do we trust him? A small boy in the front spoke up, his voice shaky but clear, what if he lies again? What if nothing changes? Tereza knelt to meet his eyes, as soft as the glow from the nearby window. That's the risk we take. But imagine we can hold him accountable. If he comes, we'll ask him everything. We'll demand answers, not just for us, but for the future. A woman in the crowd stepped forward, her hands trembling with emotion. I'm scared. What if we put ourselves out there and get hurt again? What if this just leads to more pain? If we don't try, Tereza responded slowly, we will never know the possibility of something better. We can't allow fear to control our lives anymore. We've fought too hard for our voices to be silenced. We owe it to each other to step into the light, no matter how bright it may be. Somewhere behind her, the group stirred, their eyes flickering with a shared sense of purpose. It was as if the air had thickened with intent, each breath filled with ideas brewing just beneath the surface. Let's start right now, Tereza urged, her heart pounding. Reach out to someone you trust here, share your fears, your hopes. Let's form these bonds. Take a leap of faith together. Are you with me? A hesitant murmur began to swirl, quickly picking up momentum. One by one, people began to nod, smiles breaking through hesitant frowns, hands rising cautiously into the air, signaling commitment. Let's do it. Someone shouted, and a wave of enthusiasm spread, floating through the room like a gentle breeze. It was contagious. Tereza felt herself smile, thrill and anxiety morphing into a singular sense of determination. As the noise crescendoed around her, Tereza gathered her breath, sensing that this might just be the start of something monumental. She was still uncertain of the path ahead, but each willing soul beside her turned that fear into fuel. It was time to forge ahead, hammering out past pains to carve out a brighter future. But a question lingered, could they truly withstand the storms that were sure to come? Would they find strength in vulnerability, or would the past come crashing back, stronger than before? The weight of the unknown pressed down, but now the glimmer of hope illuminated their path. How would they navigate this precarious journey? What would happen when the past collided with their courageous resolve? The following week unfolded with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. Tereza busied herself preparing for the first gathering, hammering together her thoughts and laying out plans on paper. She envisioned a warm and inviting space where each voice would be heard, a safe haven amidst the chaos of their shared past. Still, doubts gnawed at her. Could she truly lead them? As the day arrived, she decorated the community center, stringing colorful lights overhead and lining the tables with hopeful decorations. Each item she placed felt like a symbol of rebirth. But despite the vibrant colors, an undercurrent of fear coursed through her. What if no one showed? What if, when they did, their fears and expectations squelched the fragile momentum they had built? People began trickling in, hesitant but hopeful, echoing the emotions that had filled the previous meeting. Tereza's heart fluttered as she welcomed them, each face a reminder of their shared experience. A few couples whispered, some friends clasped hands, and older residents openly scanned the room for familiar faces, the atmosphere crackling with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Thank you all for coming, Tereza began, her voice steadying with each word. This is our space to share. Not only our fears, but our dreams. We can start to heal together, I believe that. She gestured around the room, her heart swelling as she saw nods of encouragement. The first to speak was a middle-aged woman named Clara, her voice trembling. I never thought I'd have the courage to say anything, but here I am. I feel lost. This pain is exhausting, and I don't know how to move forward. Her words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Tereza felt a tightness in her chest. Clara's honesty struck a chord within her, propelling other voices forward. One by one, more individuals shared their stories of loss, confusion, and heartache. There was the young father who had lost everything in an accident, a schoolteacher who felt hopeless amid missed opportunities, and an elderly man whose dreams had been overshadowed by sorrow. Each story wove a tapestry of resilience. As the conversations grew deeper, Tereza noticed an unusual shift. Amidst the pain, laughter peppered their discussions. They began reminiscing moments of joy, favorite memories, shared triumphs glistening alongside their narratives of suffering. When all seemed to coalesce into a comforting rhythm, a shadow fell upon them. The door creaked open, and in stepped the man whose presence had been a ghost in their discussions. He stood there, visibly nervous, hands clasped in front of him as he scanned the room. Gasps filled the air, electricity sparking as Tereza's heart plummeted. Should they welcome him, or chase him away? Instinctively, she knew everyone was treading the same line between fear and desire, fear of falling back into the darkness, and a collective desire to confront the tumultuous past. She took a breath, the words bubbling up within her like a fight for fresh air. You're welcome here, she found herself saying, defying the shouts of caution screaming in her mind. We all deserve to voice our truths. But as murmurs of dissent swirled, Tereza felt the weight of what they faced. Would this truly be their moment of reckoning, or would it all blow up before them? The past felt menacingly close, ready to disrupt the fragile healing they had begun. A feeling of uncertainty lingered in the air, so palpable it felt electric. Tereza's heart raced. What would happen next? As she locked eyes with the man, a question loomed in her mind: would he bring clarity or chaos? Tereza stood at the center of the room, emotions swirling like the vibrant colors she cherished. She watched as the man shuffled to the front, his presence both jarring and electrifying. The tension crackled, and she feared it might snap, their steady progress could come undone. Thank you for letting me in, he said, voice low yet trembling. I know I'm not welcome here, but I'm trying to do better. With her heart pounding, Tereza stepped closer. We're all learning. We're all scared. You are not alone in this, but you have to show us you want to change. Her words sparked something deeper. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, anticipation swelling. She gestured to the seats around her. This is a space for honesty. For healing. Do you really think I deserve that? He asked, vulnerability etched across his face like a raw wound. Sensing the shifting energy, Tereza nodded. Change isn't instant, and trust takes time. We're all here because we want to heal. Share with us. Let us start there. The man shifted again, ruminating over her words. The crowd leaned in, whispers carried on uncertain winds. Clara, her face softer, spoke up, what if you hurt one of us again? Can we really take that chance? The air thickened, doubts boiling beneath the surface. Tereza felt the weight of the moment pressing down, but she refused to falter. What happens if we don't try? She challenged gently. Then nothing changes. We live in fear and resentment. But by confronting this uncertainty together, we find growth. A ripple of murmurs washed through the audience, emotions twisting in various directions. Tereza's heart raced as she found more support trickle forth. It takes courage to face our worst fears, she continued. We're not here to excuse the past, but to forge a future where we can reclaim our power. The man glanced around at the faces staring back at him, a mix of hope and doubt reflected in their eyes. He took a deep breath, and Tereza could see the weight of the world in his stance. I'm truly sorry for everything, he swallowed hard. I don't expect you to forgive me right now. But I want to understand and be held accountable. That moment stretched, the audience hanging on the precipice of possibility. Tereza felt a flicker of something warm spread through her chest. This wasn't just about him or them, it was about collaboration, reconciliation, and the messy beauty of growth. What if we take this journey together? She suggested, her voice steady and inviting. We can create a support group, new stories from old pains, a collaborative art space. It's a chance for all of us to express, to reflect, to find common ground. An elderly woman stepped forward, eyes glistening. I like that, she said. Let us give it a name. Something that signifies hope. Resilience, Tereza suggested, her heart thrumming with a blend of excitement and fear. An open group where we can share, create, and heal together. Where the past can turn into a canvas for a brighter future. Nods of agreement spread through the room, a wave coursing between them. Tereza's heart soared as she noticed doubt beginning to dissolve, the air shifted in rhythm with their aspirations. One voice, a hesitant young man, broke through the buzz. We have to hold him accountable too, right? Of course, Tereza responded, grounding their intentions further. But as we heal, we ensure accountability becomes a shared responsibility. We'll ensure this community stands strong together. A warmth swept through the crowd, shaking off the icy doubts clinging to the edges of their hearts. Conversations started blossoming, ideas symphonying around Tereza as planning erupted naturally. The overwhelming sheer force of their collective courage ignited a spark, and soon they found themselves envisioning how resilience would operate. They'd meet weekly, share art, and learn to paint their histories anew. As the crowd began to disperse, mingling with newfound energy, Tereza felt a surge of joy wash over her. This was the transformation they had all longed for, not just for her but for everyone. In this moment, she was both the artist and the canvas, crafting something profound from unpredictable colors. Standing at the doorway, Tereza caught the man's eye, an understanding shared between them. We'll figure this out one step at a time, she whispered, heart pounding with hope. Thank you for the chance, he replied, vulnerability lush in his tone. Tereza turned with the corners of her mouth smiling, triumphant. They were working toward a better tomorrow, stitching together lives that once felt torn apart. This was the power of community. Together they could transform pain into empowerment, shaping the canvases of their lives into a masterpiece. As she walked away, she knew this was just the beginning, the threads of their stories interweaving into a fabric of resilience, hope, painting a future no longer dimmed by shadows of the past. And it was beautiful. If you felt the power of this journey and want to witness more transformations like Tereza's, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't miss out on upcoming stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us spread these incredible journeys. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us keep the conversation going. And for real, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Just imagine how it could impact their lives. Don't wait not even one more second to share and show your support for our community.